Hi and welcome to this video describing the cyborg instruments which are included with Vengeful Cello. Short version, take both string waveforms and use them as oscillators in a subtractive synth. This whole video is with no external effects except for a bit of reverb. Here's a simple pad. There are two instrument patches here. The 06 Legacy Cyborg is identical to the one included in the original version of Vengeful Cello and uses cello waveforms. The 05 Cyborg is basically a more powerful version of that with a lot more waveform choices and slightly fancier modulation. There are waveforms available from all four Vengeful strings with various sustains, tremolos and so on. The tremolos and scrubs can be used to create textures which you wouldn't typically expect from a synth. The wind noise sounds can add up to a big nasty industrial effect. Modulating string samples through synth-style envelopes and filters and LFOs is nothing new, but in this case the waveforms are preferred beforehand. Their natural attacks get chopped off and they're all normalized, so it works a little more like an organic version of a typical synth with immediate response, so you can do plucks and other sounds with very quick starts. Make pizzicata out of arco, in other words. So far so normal, but there are also a few things this does which typical subtractive synths don't. One is the envelope variation control, which adds a little extra to decay and release time, with more added to the center voice than to the extra unison voices, and more added to oscillator 1 than 2 and the lease to 3. This lets you make plucks or release tails which are a little more organic, especially if you put a warmer sounding voice in oscillator 1. The temporary detune and its time control are another unusual thing. Came up with this while editing the Haziha choir samples and looking at the spectra, noticing how the singers drifted towards a common pitch. This modulation basically detunes the unison voices at the start of the note, but then they drift towards being more in tune, ending up detuned by only the constant detune amount. At extreme settings this gets ridiculously dramatic. Another thing that our synth-style instruments have had for years, since string cyborgs, is that the humanized control randomizes each voice's LFO separately. This can be used for gradually wobbling pads with slow LFOs, or use fast LFOs for total SFXy chaos. I think it was Derek Smalls who asked, well, what's wrong with being SFXy? Each oscillator choice has from 25 to 59 files on the hood, and it all adds up to more than 1500 samples. Few of the choices are not quite like the others. The EUB is made from the old Ergo Electric upright bass library, which includes samples of the low C string detuned all the way to an octave below a standard bass E string. It sounds a little more synthetic than the others, being an electric instrument. This is also as good a time as any to throw on the Portamento. The last three are from a Camencia with an airy, breathy tone. There's normal bowing and sul ponticello bowing for even more air. And weirdest sound in the entire library called Legno Tratto, which is scraping the wooden side of the bow along the strings of the Camencia. This one's great for adding a little unpredictability to the pads, but this is what it sounds like by itself, with a slow, deep vibrato thrown on for even more nastiness. Also, the cello colle is single cycle waveforms cut from the colle technique. This is the closest to a typical synthesizer saw wave, but because each sample start point is randomized and each oscillator has different detune and width ranges, you can even stack this with itself. And for no good reason, let's end this video with a super saw of sorts. You can get this and all the rest of the Vengeful strings and our other samples at calorifer.com. If you like it, tell a friend. If you like it and you don't have any friends, tell an enemy. And thanks for watching.